Hello and a warm welcome to Business Daily. I'm Kim Young-gil in Seoul. Let's get started with a glimpse of today's highlights. Korea's economic growth forecast for this year has been raised to 3%, promising to achieve that target by revamping the government's finances and improving fiscal efficiency. More and more young job seekers are shying away from stable employment, opting for occupations that are considered less conventional in Korea as economic uncertainties persist. Don't go away and stay tuned for more stories. Earlier this week, the bad blood between South Korea and China over the deployment of THAAD spilled over to Korea's biggest automaker. Hyundai Motors' assembly lines in China came to a grinding halt, but as of today, the factories are up and running again. Our Elliot Kim starts us off.
As of Tuesday, Hyundai Motors' production in China is back in full gear. The local supplier that had previously stopped deliveries of plastic fuel tanks due to late payments is providing components once more. The automaker has seen a massive drop in sales in China so far this year. From January to July, Hyundai sold around 350,000 vehicles in China, 41% down from its 600,000 or so units sold last year. This comes amid tensions between Seoul and Beijing over the U.S. deployment of the THAAD missile defense system in South Korea. 4 out of the 5 Hyundai plants in China had stopped production, 3 in Beijing and 1 in Hebei province, with the 5th plant yet to even start operations. Hyundai Motors' Chinese factories have a combined production capacity of 1.4 million cars a year. Industry watchers say that the company can do little else besides sitting back and enduring these setbacks until the diplomatic row is resolved, when it can hope to fully bounce back. Elliot Kim, Business Daily.
The state-run Korea Development Bank announced today it plans to offer hundreds of millions of dollars in support to companies that have taken a hit from China's THAAD retaliation. The bank said it would earmark some $445 million to support affected firms to cover losses in relocation or in mergers and acquisitions. KDB said it would also create a dedicated fund worth some $44 million to inject liquidity into businesses that are suffering from a cash crunch. In addition, to ease the burden of SMEs, the bank will extend the deadline or change the repayment schedule of various loans that are due to mature this year. Now shifting gears, President Moon Jae-in's 8-day marathon policy briefings from government ministries and agencies continued on Tuesday. With the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy, he clarified his administration's policies on nuclear power and pledged that Korea will lead the so-called Fourth Industrial Revolution and improve public infrastructure. Our Cha Sang-mi has more.
President Moon Jae-in on Tuesday emphasized that Korea was behind on policies promoting clean energy compared to other OECD nations and called for full cooperation from all related ministries.
우리의 탈원전은 가동 중인 원전을 폐쇄하는 것이 아니라 원전 신규 건설을 하지 않고 설계 수명이 다한 노후 원전을 더 이상 연장 가동하지 않는 것입니다.
The president also reiterated that he will respect the decision made by the State Commission on whether to halt or continue the construction of the Shingori 5 and 6 nuclear reactors in the southeastern city of Ulsan. He reaffirmed his policy of implementing a shift in national energy policy that will reduce nuclear and coal-fired power plants, but said the process will take up to 60 years. Therefore, the Industry Ministry said it will keep promoting clean energy as part of President Moon's nuclear-free pledge. President Moon also showed his ambitions in constructing a smart city, whereby the city's core platform will be characterized by a fusion of cutting-edge technologies.
우리가 보유하고 있는 ICT 기술 등 우리의 국가적 역량으로 충분히 해볼 만한 과제라고 생각합니다. 4차 산업혁명을 선도하기 위한 문재인 정부의 야심찬 프로젝트로 추진해도 좋지 않을까 생각합니다.
President Moon envisioned converging different industries to create smart homes, roads, public infrastructure, and clean energy for Korea's cities. He urged relevant ministries to come up with detailed plans and secure budgets to support such projects that will deal with the latest technological changes. The president said coordination between industrial and environmental policies is key to achieving such policy goals. 차상미, Business Daily.
The number of internet and smartphone banking users is continuing to grow in Korea, providing services that are easy to access without having to visit brick-and-mortar branches. According to a report from the Bank of Korea, around 127 million bank accounts were being managed actively online in the second quarter, up 1.4% from 3 months earlier. The number of credit applications submitted online, as well as the total amount of loans extended, also tripled during the cited period. The government is set to release a comprehensive plan next month to curb household debt. Under the new measures, fresh borrowing will become more difficult by raising the bar on existing loan requirements. Our Eunice Kim has a story.
Korea's household debt was closing in on 1.39 quadrillion won in the second quarter of this year, expanding 10%. That's an equivalent of $117 billion from the year before. To pull in the reins on borrowing, the government's comprehensive measures being finalized for announcement early next month are likely to place their focus on raising the bar for approval on fresh loans. After lowering both the loan-to-value and debt-to-income ratios back in August, the industry is anticipating the debt service ratio, or DSR, to be introduced. That considers everything from existing mortgages and credit card loans as banks assess the borrower's repayment capacity. Also, a new debt-to-income ratio is expected that calculates what the borrower's future repayment ability will be as well. In particular, applications from those who are self-employed will likely receive higher scrutiny. All considerations that are part of a plan that aims to lower the rate of household debt growth below that of Korea's economic growth rate within 5 years. But there are concerns that measures to tighten the purse strings on new loans could in fact lead to other problems.
If the household debt policy is approached as part of measures to stabilize real estate prices, I think there is a risk of worsening overall credit risk, even if overall household debt is reduced.
There are calls for a multi-pronged approach with measures for real estate, for the self-employed, for raising income in order to comprehensively address the problem at its core, instead of driving those with an urgent need for money toward higher interest loans from non-bank institutions. Eunice Kim, Business Daily.
It's expected to be an eventful week with a number of important economic indicators scheduled to be released in the coming days. They are expected to give insight to help determine whether the local economy's recovery path is on a solid footing. For more, we have our Kim Jiyeon joining us in the studio. Hi, Jiyeon.
Hey, Min-Gil.
So, Jiyeon, tell us, what could we expect in the next few days?
Sure. On Thursday, the Bank of Korea will hold its monthly policy meeting for August. The main benchmark interest rate has been kept at a record low of 1.25%. And the broad market consensus is that the BOK will keep the rate steady once again. What they're waiting on instead is any cues from the central bank regarding the timing of its next possible rate hike and factors that will play into such a decision. Take a look. The BOK was expected to give stronger hints of a rate hike following a string of hawkish remarks from Central Bank Governor Lee Ju-yeol in recent weeks. But that was until the markets were rattled by North Korea and a series of missile launches, as well as speculation over its growing nuclear capability.
When looking at past examples, the economic impact from geopolitical risk factors have been transitory. But when assessing recent developments concerning North Korea, a heightened level of tension is being felt, and if that spreads among economic entities, they're likely to discourage consumption and investment.
An assessment of government measures to curb speculation in the housing market is also likely to play a vital role in determining the timing of the next rate hike. Further reinforcing expectations of a rate freeze on Thursday is a dovish tone from the U.S. Federal Reserve regarding its own interest rate hikes.
On the same day, Statistics Korea is set to release the country's industrial output figures for July. Output across all of Korea's industries edged down in June from the previous month, the third straight month it has lost ground. But the agency had previously forecast it would recover during the latter half of this year, pointing to improved consumer sentiment and IT exports over the past several months. Moving on to Friday, Statistics Korea will release data on consumer prices for the month of August, an important indicator on whether domestic consumption is picking up, which has been sluggish since 2014. In the preceding months leading up to July, inflation appeared to recover, hovering near the government's target of 2%. Also on Friday, the Bank of Korea is to release its provisional estimates of gross national income and gross domestic product for the local economy during the second quarter. We'll have to see if it's been altered from its previous guidance unveiled late last month, which estimated the country's on-quarter GDP growth at 0.6% in the April to June period, due to increases in private consumption, which has been up by nearly 1%, the highest in a year and a half.
So, Jiyeon, how are experts forecasting the 2017 economic growth, taking into account the North Korean factor as well as the various new policies being rolled out by the government?
Right. An expert at the Korea Institute of Finance that I talked to says that the institute has raised its forecast for 2017 earlier this month from 2.8% to 3% on the back of rising exports and the government's $9.8 billion supplementary budget bill for job creation. And the institute is expecting the budget bill to have minimal impact on fiscal balance while boosting annual growth by 0.14 percentage points. He also says that an assessment is needed on the government's new measures on speculative investments in the local housing market, seen as one of the main culprits of mounting household debt, currently sitting at roughly $1.2 trillion. Another expert that I talked to at the Hyundai Research Institute said the measure could be a double-edged sword, which could hamper the construction business, especially when budgets related to social overhead capital for building roads and infrastructure have been significantly cut in next year's budget.
Due to the measures, real estate transactions have taken a nosedive, which usually leads to a drop in real estate prices. When that happens, it could undercut tax revenues, since a large portion is derived from taxation from real estate transactions. Whether the measures are effective in curbing household debt remains unclear, with new housing supply set to become available in the market in the second half of the year.
Now, Jiyeon, speaking of taxation, there are concerns that a general tax hike may be inevitable to fund the new policies unveiled by the Moon Jae-in administration since he took office, right?
Right, that's right. The National Assembly's 100-day regular session will kick off this Friday, the first one since the Moon Jae-in administration took office. And lawmakers are expected to focus on the 2018 budget bill, which is seeking a huge budget increase on welfare and defense expenditures. And discussions are likely to home in on whether the government has a sustainable fiscal plan to bankroll their policies and the possible need for a tax hike in that regard. And the Moon administration had brushed off concerns of such a tax hike, saying its finances are well covered by the restructuring of government projects and the recent tax hike on conglomerates and the super rich.
Right, Jiyeon. Well, there's bound to be tussles of war between the rival parties as they try to deliberate on next year's budget. Thank you, Jiyeon.
Thanks.
Koreans still appear reluctant to give birth despite various efforts from the government to encourage people to have more children. According to Statistics Korea, roughly 406,000 babies were born in 2016, down about 7% from the previous year. With that, the fertility rate, or the average number of babies a woman is expected to have in her lifetime, dipped to 1.17 in 2016, a 7-year low. This also ranks among the lowest in the OECD. The proportion of first-time mothers over the age of 35 also increased to over 26% last year. The average age of a woman having her first child was seen at 32.4. Now, the government is considering the designation of more temporary holidays as a way of boosting the economy. Research from the Korea Culture and Tourism Institute shows the extra holidays have boosted consumption by $38.5 million and induced $63.5 million worth of extra production. In light of this, temporary holidays are now being seen as a feasible way to boost spending, tourism, and the economy as a whole. The government is widely expected to designate October 2nd as a temporary holiday to create a 10-day break period, including Chuseok. Hana Tour, the country's leading travel agency, says it has received double the number of travel bookings compared to the same time last year. Seoul's subway system has a reputation for being generally tidy, despite the crowds. But the newest addition to its network, which will begin operating this weekend, aims to go one step further with a pleasing visual touch. The Ui line is completely free of commercial advertisements, and instead it's filled with artwork. Our Lee Jung-yeon has this report.
Seoul is unveiling its first light metro in the northern area of the capital this weekend. Connecting the Uidong area to the more central area of Shinseol-dong, it has 13 stops and takes 23 minutes to travel the length of the route.
We built this new line to resolve the imbalance between the different districts of Seoul. Our ultimate goal is to make subway stops accessible within 10 minutes, wherever you are in the city.
What distinguishes the Ui metro line from the lines that precede it is that it's a culture railway. As the name suggests, it's filled with artworks and information on the city's cultural events. Artists featured in the stations include well-known painter Chung Kyung-ja and graphic artist Kim Young-na.
The subway is a place where people move about every day. We wanted to provide the public with a chance to immerse themselves in culture on a daily basis and make this place enjoyable for them.
Art is not only visible in the stations, but also inside the cars themselves. This train is called the Running Gallery. Here, commuters are free of advertisements that bombard their daily lives, but instead can enjoy pieces of art during their journey. Works by disabled artists Jung Eun-hae and Jung Do-eun are featured in the Running Gallery. Displaying such art inside the train gives the public a chance to really become one with art. There are also plans for a running library, running concert hall, and even running botanical garden. As such, organizers hope that subways, used by crowds of people each day, can continue to be a platform for promoting art and culture in Seoul. Lee Jung-yeon, Business Daily.
Butchers, welders, blacksmiths, or master shoemakers, there are not the typical job titles describing young people in Korea these days. But with youth unemployment taking a toll on young people, an increasing number are choosing to take the road less taken. Our Lee Ju-young has more.
Ask your average job seeker in Korea, and still, a large proportion is striving to either work at state-run entities or directly for the government. But with high youth unemployment taking its toll on young people, an increasing number of them are being forced to turn away from these steady jobs and take the road less taken by delving into occupations considered somewhat unconventional in Korea while adding their own youthful touch in the process. This is the case for 27-year-old Hong Seok-tae. After graduating with a business degree from a 4-year university, Hong decided to open his own meat shop, becoming the only business owner in his 20s in the entire market. Everyone else is about twice his age. He pulls 12-hour shifts, welcoming over 30 customers a day, and personally visits slaughterhouses to select the best quality beef, something that he says 9 out of 10 owners do not do.
It's only when we understand the distribution system can we track how quality meat is being distributed. This is my focus for the time being.
He also actively utilizes blogs and takes orders online. Korea's young people are also breathing new life into Seongsu-dong district in Seoul, a mecca for handmade shoes since the 1990s. Currently, a shoemaking course is well underway, teaching students the whole manufacturing process of making the perfect pair of handmade footwear, courtesy of the local government.
The existing master craftsmen are getting older, and in 10 years, I'm afraid we won't have many left. We need to keep nurturing people who can carry on this technique. Luckily, there's an increasing number of young people who are willing to learn. I think we can work together.
Busy working on the new design is Lee Sang-soo, who one day hopes to own a brand of his own. He says he decided to walk the artisan route and do what he loves after a brief stint working for a company after graduation.
I want to make shoes that are suitable for Koreans, especially for people who find their heels being scraped or who have unusually wide feet. That's actually the reason why I started in the first place. And I want to make shoes that are not limited to one type of design, but ones that are suited to fulfill the design of your dreams.
For those who want to start their own business after completing the intensive 6-month course, the local government also provides office space at a cheaper rent. This is the case for CEO An So-yeon, who launched her own brand Too Faced at Seongsu-dong about a year ago.
저희 같은 경우는 네일피를 지금 다 가죽으로 사용을 하는데 이 슈즈 디자인에 따라 소가죽을 사용하는 경우도 있고 양가죽을 사용하는 경우도 있고 체인 같은 경우는 직접 디자인하고 제작을 하는 거거든요.
She says business is steady as an increasing number of Koreans are becoming more aware of handmade shoes these days. Not only are they seeing a surge in orders, but I've even launched a showroom this month for people who want to try on the shoes.
A greater number of women in their 20s and 30s want to buy designer shoes. And given the wide feet and various foot sizes among Asians, there's a limit in ready-made shoes. Seeing such demand, I think once we find an appropriate price range, many consumers will want it.
While an increasing number of young people are starting to deviate from the beaten-down path, experts point out it's still only a small proportion of the population.
I think there's still too much focus on the short-term and materialistic benefits of the given jobs. Instead, I think there's a need for us to explore new business areas, find niches, and be challenged to stand out from the crowd. I think there's still a big lack in entrepreneurial spirit among the younger generation.
While not all occupations may fulfill the traditional definition of success, paving your own way to the top may be the best way going forward. Lee Ju-young, Business Daily.
That does it for now. We'll be back with more business news, same time, same place here at Business Daily. As always, thank you for watching. Goodbye.